Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Builders Show, the show where we build builders. I'm with my co-host, as always, Wilson Patansis. And Will, I have a question for you to start off the morning.
Lay it on me.
Will Gen Z make more money than millennials and boomers? What do you think?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I think, whew, well, let me take a second. Will Gen Z make more money than millennials and boomers? I think that's a trick question because there's so many different ways you can look at it. It's not just about the money aspect, it's about the access electricians have now that they didn't have before. So, are we counting just work like apprenticeship, or are we talking about uh, like different things like Instagram with it, and then influencing and all these other type? We're talking about just work.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get at is the pathway for electricians today versus the generation before Gen Z, millennials, or even boomers. And so
Oof.
we look at how boomers and millennials business, we look at how they became an electrician, all that was involved. Now we are in a world of internet everywhere. The world revolves around the internet. That's where everyone is getting their information. And so the question is, how does Gen Z have it as an electrician compared to the generations before them? Do they have a harder or easier, or what do you think?
I like how you broke that down because when you break it down like that, I definitely think electricians nowadays, I definitely think electricians nowadays have it easier than millennials. Gen Z electricians today have so much more outreach, so much more opportunities, so much more resources that these other electricians, like when we were growing up, we didn't have. And imagine that from boomers. We already have a divide when it comes to millennials and boomers, and we already have that friction. So I can imagine the night and day difference between boomers and Gen Z because we were in the generation where if you were an electrician and if you wanted to learn electrical, you had to find somebody to show you the ropes. Very few of us really learned on our own because guess what? We didn't have resources. We couldn't just walk up to someone's house. No, the way we learned electrical was somebody invited us out, on a Saturday to tag along on their job. We got to see what they were doing. They gave us a shot. We wanted to work with our hands, and someone gave us an opportunity, right? That's how we learned electrical. But now there's people today who can just turn on YouTube. They can just go on Instagram. They can just ask somebody just like how we learned. I think they have more opportunities to learn and pick up a trade. So, with that being said, if you come into the trade today, you can get so much more ahead than millennials and boomers. With that being said, you should be earning more than millennials and boomers because you have those resources, if that makes sense. You should take a full advantage of everything that's right in front of you. Now, does that help having all of these resources, you may ask, or does that actually hold a lot of people back? Right? I think that's the next question it leads to. What do you think?
Yeah, so you just posed a question on how these resources could hold someone back. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there's no arguing. We have more than they had, right? There's no arguing that, right? They still had, dial up. We got people with hotspots everywhere, even in your vans now. So that's not the argument. The argument now is that helping them take full advantage of it.
Yeah, so just to clarify something, we're not saying that you can be an electrician by watching YouTube videos only. We're not saying that you become an electrician by watching influencers make videos only. Those are helpful resources that you can take advantage of in the process of becoming an electrician. And that's something that generations before us didn't have in any career, right? So I think when we talk about is Gen Z going to make more money, I think we're trying to get at how Gen Z, I don't know if I would argue that they have it easier than other generations. It depends on what you mean by that. But I would argue that there is so much more opportunity for Gen Z to become an electrician. there are so many resources you can use today that weren't available even just 10 years ago, 15, 20, 30, and so forth. But now Gen Z has greater opportunities, more opportunities to excel in their career, especially as electricians, with the data centers that are coming along and everything else that we've talked about in previous podcasts. How this is a world we live in that is made for electricians moving forward. What do you think?
Ooh, that's a good one. We're in a world that's made for electricians. That's a staple. That's a clip right there for you, bro. That was a good one. But I think you hit it on the head. Because to become an electrician, to become journeyman, to become licensed, you still have the traditional pathways. You still go through apprenticeship school, you still got to track your hours, you still got to get some experience in the field, some schooling, and then you can apply for your journeyman license. Remember, we talked about Department of Labor sets those standards for you, not any organization, not any other buddy, but the DOL in every state is going to tell you what you have to do to become a licensed electrician. Now, with that in mind, I remember growing up, and when I was an electrician, when I was going through, you didn't really get a lot of time to practice during the day. I never had time to just, hey, bend some pipe.
Mm.
So when I was working, someone's paying us to get a job done. So I wasn't really learning how to bend pipe during the day because we had to be productive, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I had chance to bend pipe outside of work, which was almost never, I never took a Saturday to bend pipe. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, kids could just turn on YouTube and watch how to make formulas and then take the initiative. So I think, like, for example, just bending pipe, that's a perfect example of, if you want to be good as an electrician, if you want to be a successful electrician, if you want to be a great electrician, you have to put yourself in circumstances that is going to separate you from everyone else. For example, you have to now spend time after work on your craft. You have to spend some money to get some material so you can practice on your own. That will separate you, because during the day, you don't really have the choice to practice. You're supposed to be productive. So if you're an electrician and then you wanted to be very good, you practiced on your own free time, with your own money. But nowadays, we have people to not only help you, but you have videos online will show you how to do that so you don't have to learn and waste so much money. So it all comes down to, are you the person who's going to take time to be the better electrician? And that comes down more to a mindset than anything. You understand?
Yep.
Like, for example, like, do you want to be a better human being or a healthier human being? So stop eating junk food. It's simple to say, but guess what? People are going to go to McDonald's. People are going to go to Taco Bell. People are going to just order whatever they want. True or not?
Yeah.
So saying, yes, Gen Z can do better, Gen Z will make more money, doesn't really mean anything, I think, now. Because are they the person? Do they have the mindset to even take advantage of it? With everything that's going on day to day, these guys are just like swiping through life. Everything's instant gratification. They're not really trying to develop anything. That's what it looks like. That's just coming from me. What do you think about that? How does all of that play into work now? Because we both have the same opportunities. We both
Right.
could be great electricians. But does one generation have a leg over the other? And if they do, what is that benefit? And are you the person to take up that benefit or just let it pass by?
Yeah, that's all really good points. So, as an electrician, the opportunities are the same for everybody. There's no partiality when it comes to our trade. I think the difference is with Gen Z, maybe compared to generations before them, is the fact that we live in a world that is so fast paced. It is so quick. And guess what? A lot of what we do is about speed, especially when it comes to business, all about speed. And directly correlated with that is technology and the advancement of it. And so we have a lot of people who are older who grew up in a different time, obviously. And we're kind of in the middle, Will. And I know for me that I'm kind of 50-50. I'm like half the technology and half old school. It's like an inner battle I always have with
Yeah.
myself. But with all that being said, we are in such a fast paced world, society, economy. And I think that is why Gen Z is owning the space. I think that's why Gen Z does so well in this line of work now, especially when it comes to business, contracting, how to grow a business. They're on top of all of that stuff compared to generations before them because this is what they are growing up in. And also with the resources we talked about, you can learn from so many people that have done it well through media, through online, instead of having to go travel somewhere for a week to hear someone speak in person. Does that make sense?
Oh, heck yeah. And I think you hit it on the head, especially with saying how much of a fast paced world we are. Remember, I feel like electricians today are viewing their job, they're viewing their employer just like Tinder. They're over here swiping, trying to find out the next meat that they're going to be sleeping with. And the next thing you know, guess what happens? It doesn't last long. Why? Because they're just looking for the next high. What are electricians doing today? They're jumping around from company to company for 50-cent raises, for $1 raises, instead of actually becoming a true electricians, putting in the time, putting in the reps. But I feel like what you said in the sense where we're in this middle ground right now. So the way you and I grew up, we grew up, with the boomers, and then we get to see the Gen Z, Gen Alpha electricians coming up. And we're in this like weird little middle space because we like couldn't take the good and bad of both and apply it to our circumstances. So like when it comes to the good, we see what a good work ethic is without these tools. Because if you had that same work ethic as somebody as a boomer, you would look like a machine now. But at the same time, there's phrases like work smarter, not harder. So if you look something up, you're actually doing better than a boomer because you have tools and resources that we have now that they didn't have. You know what I mean? So we're in this weird world where we get to balance both of these pros and cons. Now, as an electrician, I feel like you have to figure out if you're going to be that person. And that's a mindset thing. Just like when it came to jumping around from company to company, that's a mindset thing. Before they honored loyalty, nowadays I feel like everyone's trying to leverage their time, they're trying to leverage their energy rather than loyalty. Before, you used to work for a company for 3, 4, 5 years, you were vested in the company, you were taken care of, you were getting some of the big jobs that you wanted, some of the easy jobs when you needed a break, you got some good pay, you got some good bonuses, you were always making jokes with the foreman, you were in the club. But nowadays I feel like kids are really willing to just jump and switch companies at the drop of a hat because they're not loyal to it, but because they see opportunity somewhere else. So I think the real divide right now, what's going on with boomers and millennials, comes down to the person, if that makes sense, and what type of person, what type of upbringing you had, because that's going to influence the type of person you are today. There's people who grow up in an unstable household where it's, they can't trust their parents, they can't trust their spouse, so they're not going to trust no one at work. You know what I mean? You can only produce what you have inside of you, before all these other things start creeping out. So what do you think when it comes to stuff like that for electricians specifically?
Yeah, so you made a lot of good points. Uh, I think, I think, okay, so when we talk about boomers, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a boomer audience? When you think of a boomer, the first thing that comes to my mind is they think they're right about everything. Now,
Uh,
they have more life experience than me, so there's something to be said there. But what I find in our trade, what I find specifically with electricians, with boomers, is that they think that because they've been doing it for 20 years, 30 plus years, that they're automatically right. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We have, like I said before, we have new technology. We're advancing. We're in a much faster world than it was 30, 40 years ago. And just because you've been doing something for 30 years doesn't mean that you've been doing it right. I could also argue that you may have been doing it the well back so many years ago. But is your method, is the way you do things still effective in today's world
Mm.
as an electrician? So, um, I think sometimes boomers they they demand this respect without actually showing that they deserve it. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to say it, but there's a lot of really smart young people out there that are killing the older generation. They are blowing them out of the water in every type of way. Business, knowledge, it's not even comparable. Why? I was actually doing some research earlier, and none of this is scientifically proven. This is just like surveys, reports. But Will, did you know that most people don't change their habits after the age of 30?
Really?
You can always self develop, so it doesn't mean that you can't change. But
Just
typically,
like it's like a principle. It's like a
it's
pattern.
a principle, so it's not a black and white blanket truth statement for all situations, all circumstances. But generally speaking, most people don't make drastic, habitual changes in their life after 30.
Holy smokes! Why is
They're
that?
stuck in, it's just, oh, I don't know. I don't know why. There might
Well,
be some set.
looking towards complacency. I'm guessing. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
stir the
Well, I
pot. You
mean,
want a house. You want to settle down.
yeah. Well, when you're young, you have all this energy, right? I mean, 30 may be a little young. So I don't know if I don't know about that. But I
Well,
think,
think about us. We started all of this at 30, so
yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm
one of those things
34,
that
but
just doesn't apply to us. You know what I mean?
we're the exception to the rule to everything.
Right.
Um, no,
Listen
but
to us now.
yeah, but I mean, I just think about people who are maybe like my parents' age, um, like anywhere. I don't know. I don't want to throw specific numbers out there. I just think about people who are that next generation before us. They've been the same person for 20 plus years. You know, there really hasn't been very much change. And so, bringing this back home to how this relates to what we're talking about is, I think that's the con or the downfall with the boomers in our industries, because I think that they're right. They've always been right, and they can just sit back and ride that wave. And there's better way to do things. There's more efficient ways to do things. And on top of that, you could have been doing it wrong all along. So just pulling out, I've been doing this for 30 years card doesn't really mean anything in and of itself.
Yeah, and I've been saying that as a principle. I've been doing this for 30 years should be a segue to something. You understand? People use I've been 30 doing this for 30 years as the ending. As in, don't question me. You see where I'm getting
Right. Well,
at?
that's the intent. Is it usually in my experience? Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but whenever someone says that, to me, it's usually because they're backed in a corner or feel pressure. Then they just whip that out and they think that solves all their problems, and they win.
Exactly. I hate when I hear an electrician say, I've been doing this for 30 years. I hate it because they're using that sentence as the closing of an argument. You can't challenge me. Who the hell you think you are? I've been doing this for 30 years. When I start meeting electricians who start saying, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I think we should do XYZ. Don't you see how that's a different structured right there sentence right there? You want to listen to one person. If you go, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years, and in my experience, we should do A, B, C,
Mm.
versus do ABC. I've been doing this for 30 years. The core focus on that sentence is basically saying you can't challenge me. I say what I'm going to do, or you do what I say you're going to do. And then there's this weird tension, yet we're in the trade. So, hey, should you listen to him? Right? If you don't listen to him, you're just going to be starting a fight. You're the bad apple. You're the bad seed of the bunch. You're starting problems with people. And at the end of the day, it just goes back to this whole conversation that we're having with this mindset. Just because you're an electrician, you've been doing this for 30 years. One doesn't mean anything if you're not going to give any value to that same sentence afterwards.
Mm.
The second point is stop using it as an ending to an argument because once again, it doesn't hold weight. And guess what? You could have been doing it wrong for 30 years. So this whole Gen Z versus boomer versus millennial thing, it's all the mindset. Because, like what we mentioned before, you can be an apprentice, you can be Gen Z, you can be an electrical apprentice with a 30, I've been doing this for 30-year mindset, true or not. I want you to clip that part for yourself. So you know what I'm talking about? I
Can you
want
repeat?
to I want
Can you
you to tackle
can you
this part
can
because
you
I know
repeat that?
you were.
Can you repeat the question again?
Remember,
So
we were talking about it, and we were talking about someone specific that we're not going to name right now. But you don't have to be doing it for 30 years to have that poor mindset. You can be on the job day one with that same mentality, true or not.
yeah,
And like vice versa, you can be doing it for 30 years, but still want to be a sponge, taking in all this knowledge, right?
yeah.
All right. So
I think
if
I'm getting
you're
lost
an
now.
electrical, yeah, I was trying to give you the alley oop. You know what I mean?
Well, are you talking
So
about
if
personally
you're,
experienced something? Are you, is that where you're
no,
getting
no,
at? Oh, okay.
no. So if you're an electrical apprentice, if it's day one on the job site, you can already have the wrong mindset. There's guys who've been saying, I've been doing this for 30 years. There's nothing you can tell me. So
Mhm.
those guys are a lost cause. If you're coming into the apprenticeship, if you're coming into the trade and you already have that mindset of, I don't want to learn, there's nothing you can tell me, you're just as bad as someone who's already been doing it for 30 years who doesn't want to change.
Oh, yeah.
Vice versa, you can be somebody who's been in the trades for 30 years. And if you stay hungry, if you keep wanting to learn, if you keep looking for new opportunities to grow, self develop, you're always going to have that apprentice mindset where you're looking for opportunities to grow. And that's what makes you valuable. If you start thinking there's nothing you can say to change me, or there's nothing you can say that I don't already know, you're going to have a horrible career. You're going to just have fights after fights. You're going to argue with it. You're not going to have joy in it. So might as well just pack it up and get the hell out of the trade.
Yeah, I'm glad that. Okay, so now I understand what you're talking about. I'm glad you brought that up because when we talk about the "I've been doing it for 30 years" phrase, that doesn't always mean just literal. Okay, we are getting at a mindset. That's surface level, superficial stuff. What we're trying to get at is the mindset of I've been doing this for 30 years. And guess what? You can still have that mindset and you've only been doing it for 5 or 10. So the years, please understand, the number of the years is not the point. The point is the principle, which is the mindset of I've already been doing this long enough. I don't need to hear anything you have to say. I already know what I'm doing. I'm not willing to learn. You can have that person who's been in business for or was in the union, for example, for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and then opened up a shop for 2 years and they shut down because they had the mindset of the I've been doing it for 30 years. So it's not tied all the time with just a number. It's a mindset.
I like that. And I feel like that's the part of today. It's that mindset. What's your mindset when it comes to all of this? So we see for boomers, we see for millennials, we see from Gen Z. If you want to be successful in the trades, if you want to be a successful electrician, you have to be always hungry and willing to change your mindset, because that mindset is going to allow you to pick up the tools. Because imagine if you've been an electrician for 30 years and you know how to use AI, you know how to communicate, you know how to self develop, you know, you're going to be an awesome electrician, well rounded, right? And now you have 30 years experience on top of that, right? Or would you rather be somebody who has been in the trade a year, no experience, but you have all these tools, but you don't know how to look up? You know, they made that movie, the serious case of Benjamin Button, you know, and it was basically saying if you can relive your life with all the knowledge you have now as a baby, what type of person would you be? You see where I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, that makes
That's not
sense.
talking about age, it's talking about a mindset. So
Sure.
if you are coming into the trade and you have that mindset of I want to be a sponge, that's awesome. You're going to have a great career. But if you had that mindset for 30 years That means 30 years you had the mindset of always absorbing, becoming a better person. That's better than a new kid starting because you already have all that success behind you, carrying you forward. You see where I'm going at? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the analogy of the Benjamin Button. That was clever. Haven't seen that movie in a while, but it reminds me. A lot of what you said reminded me of something someone said the other day on my one of my videos on my Instagram. Someone told me I forgot what video it was, but basically they were saying that I need to be in the trades for 10 years before I can speak on anything, and so I don't understand anything until I've been in the trade for 10 years, and then I can come back and have an opinion. It's like I've been in the trade for 5 years. So what is it that I'm missing right now that I don't understand? Because 5 years is going to roll around pretty quick. Time flies. What is it that someone doesn't understand at 5 years that they're going to understand in 10 years? So just stuff like that is just really stupid and dumb when people go around just throwing numbers like that. It's all arbitrary. It's all subjective. And people that say things like that are the I've been doing this for 30 years mindset once again. So it proves nothing.
There's a comedian, Bill Burr. He was on a podcast, and I know he's a little out there when he comes with his jokes, but somebody told him something, and I thought it was hilarious. So he's on a podcast with Howie Mandel, the guy from Deal or No Deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Howie and Bill Burr is talking about how much he loves his daughter, right? How he goes, I'm always on the road, but man, whenever I see that girl, I'm so happy. I light up. You know, it's something he's really passionate about. And then Howie Mandel tells him, just wait until she's a teenager, right? And then he
Yep.
looks at him and he goes, you know what's funny? Every father who failed as a father tells me the same thing. It's like, just because you failed as a father, that doesn't mean you need to put that energy on me. So it's the same thing with the mindset. It's like everybody who says, well, wait until you've been doing this for 10 years and then you get to speak. It's like every failed electrician, every type of electrician I don't want to be is telling me life advice. Like, if you're fat and overweight, I don't want you to tell me what I should be doing. If you have your back blown out, if your knees are messed up. Now, there's a phrase, a broken clock is right 2 times a day. Is that true? Absolutely. You understand? There's those things. But for major life decisions, if you're this type of electrician who physically I don't want to look like you, who financially I don't want to be like you, who mentally is out there, I've been doing this for 30 years, I can't tell you anything type of mindset, stay away from me. Every failed electrician out there is trying to tell me what to do with my life. And those are just the type of people that we have to just keep away. Just keep filtering those people out, because it's just like what Bill Burr said. Is like, why are you going to try to put that mentality on me? Because you failed, why are you going to make me feel like I'm worthless? It just doesn't make sense. And if you're coming into the trade, once again, those are the types of people you don't want to be with. But guess what? They look cool. Guess what? They may be friends with the boss because they can't really produce or they can't survive on their own. So they need to kiss ass. So they look like they're the guys. You understand? But outside of work, they're nobody. You understand? You have so much to offer when you're coming into the trade if you keep that mindset of always being a sponge and always being learning. Don't let that go. Don't give that power to anybody else who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for 10 years and then you get to
back
speak.
when I
It's
first
like
got into the trade, it was a couple of years before I got on social media, but I think I was in the trades for like 2 years, like, super green still in a lot of ways and fresh. And people were telling me back then that I was an idiot and I shouldn't be really doing anything until, like, as far as like opening up shop, that I shouldn't be opening up shop until you have at least 5 years experience, all these hours. Well, guess what? We're at 5 year mark now. Guess what? I'm here. Guess what? I'm a contractor in Tennessee, and guess what? Everything's been going good versus what people are telling me how bad it was going to be, and then I'm an idiot. And so it's like I've reached the first milestone, and then I hit it, and then now all the haters have upped their ante up to 10 years now. So it's like never good enough. You never win with those people.
Yeah. Then it's going to be 15 years, then 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
you
I'm
hit
dead.
on. Yeah. And then you're dead.
I was never good enough. No, it just wasn't meant to be. So,
damn it, babe.
Because I didn't go through a YouTube apprenticeship. All because I didn't pay my dues.
Yep, exactly, dude. Man, that was a good topic.
Let's all right, Will. So let's tie this back in. I know we got just a well, we're almost out of time. So we go back to the title of money. I want you to end with this, Will. So we talked about all these things with the mindset. So how does that? I think it's pretty obvious, but let's just tell our audience how is the mindset directly acquainted with making more money, as we said with the, kind of the premise of this video.
So millennials will make more. No, my bad. Rewind. Gen Z electricians will make more than millennials and boomers only if you have the right mindset to use the tools and the resources that you have today. If you don't, you're just going to be like every other contractor who's been doing this for 30 years. And guess what? Your knees are going to get blown out. Your back is going to hurt. You're going to be eating gas station food, living off of Dunkin' Donuts, 8,000 calories a day, drinking 12 cups of coffee. And that's going to be your future. And that's the reality of it. On the other hand, if you've been doing this for 30 years, and if you have that mindset of being a sponge, or have that apprentice mindset of always wanting to learn, or if you're an apprentice coming into the trades and you have that mindset of every day I want to learn something and use all my free time to get ahead, you're going to be making bank in 2026 because nobody else is putting in the effort to learn all of these new trades. Nobody is putting in the effort to learn data, to learn whole home smart services. No one's learning these new EV renewable systems. No one's learning or picking up data center. All of these opportunities are here for you if you have the mindset of always wanting to learn. Remember that I've been doing this for 30 years mindset is trash. It's garbage. If you want to stand on that, guess what? Your time is coming, because there's only so much you can do, say, with that type of mindset that people are actually going to see value in.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in as always. Hope y'all have a safe day, a good day, productive day, and we will see you next time.